Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Type a Y if you can hear me. Can you please type a Y if you can hear me? Type an N if you cannot hear me. Morning, morning, Nicolene. Morning, Vincent. Morning, Sean. Morning, Rhino. Good morning. My name is Hopolang, and I will be helping you with technical analysis today. The technical analysis that is of most assistance in what we do in speculation, in trading, trying to predict where the share price movement is going to go so that we can be in a position to make a lot of profits. So if I may ask at this particular stage, who made a profit over the week that has just passed? Who made a profit? Is there anyone that made a profit? I see, Sean, you just made a little. Okay. So a lot of you have made profits, which is very, very much interesting. Okay, Raymond, I hope that we should fix your mistakes today. Okay. I hope that we should fix mistakes, but remember something. There are profits that will be made, there are losses that are going to be made, but ultimately, what we ideally would like to achieve is profits and more profits, less losses, more profits, so that we can continue being profitable. And technical analysis in this instance is one of the most used tool by us as speculators to lead us into making all of those profits right there. Now, today in technical analysis, I'm going to start by focusing on the candlesticks. I'm going to also be looking at the trends, and I'm going to be looking at the times now, because one of the most important things that we have is time. And time is one of the most important things that we need to be in a position to utilize in our speculative positions that we go in when we go into the markets. And time involves the charts, the different charts that we analyze. Okay, Sbongile, one indicator. I will try, if we still have enough time, I will try by all means to do one indicator. But there's one indicator in particular that I will highlight that I have seen me in the trading room, most of the people in the trading room, when they look at their charts is basically missing one particular indicator, and it's one simple one which comes standard with a chart. And if you do not use that particular indicator, then it basically messes up with how you're supposed to screen and look at the chart itself. So we're gonna start with the candlestick. I want to fix my chart. Can everyone see my chart? Can everyone see my chart? Yes, everyone can see my chart. So I want to start first with, I'll make it bigger just now. Okay. I just made it bigger now. I'm going to start first with changing my chart. I want it to be the same color. So I'll just make it black. I'll just make everything black right now. Uh, there we go. So my chart is black, filled with candlesticks that are black. Now, the candlestick study. The candlestick is what I can say. I am right now. I am on a 1 month time frame. I am on a 1 month time frame. I am in a chart of Mediclinic. Mediclinic 1 month chart. So the candlestick was developed in Japan. The reason being, the guy that developed it, I forgot what's his name. He wanted to make it easier for him to actually analyze price movement when price is going up and when price is coming down. At the very same time, he wanted to establish and divide his analysis according to the time in which he wanted to speculate upon that price. So if he was going to be trading rice, which was one of the commodities which was traded highly back then, he wanted to make it easier for him to can spot exactly where price is gonna go. And the candlestick is one of the things that basically makes it easier for you to see all of those things. Now, since the candlestick was developed in Japan, the Western method of basically analyzing price action movement would be what are known as bars. And if I can go and change into bars, the bars look more like that, what you see right now on your screen. These are known as bars, and the bars focus just like the candlestick, they focus highly on the opening, on the closing, and that you cannot see. Are you using a mobile? Remember, if you are using a mobile, you cannot see the pictures that I have on the screen. You cannot see the video. You can only hear the audio. But if you are using a laptop, you can actually see the video. So the bar, just like the candlestick, they show the openings, the closings, the highest prices and the lowest prices reached during a trading session of a particular candlestick. Why? Because time is very important when it comes to the speculation that we are doing. So it is always important that you have an opening. It is always important that you have a closing. It is always again important to have the highest price reached, to have the lowest price reached in order for you to know the kind of activity that both buyers and sellers are actually involved in. And if there is any form of dominance which is basically taking place between those buyers and sellers. Now, let me just recap and show you the bars themselves. Now, with the bars, a bar has four prices just like a candlestick. But unlike a candlestick, a bar does not have a body. That means that the body has its own important significance, which I will highlight when we are doing candlesticks. But for now, I will just show you how a bar opens, closes, and where your highest and your lowest prices would be located in that particular bar. Now, I will start first by highlighting the opening. Now, each and every single bar that you have on any particular chart time frame represents the time frame that you have opened. Now, right now, I'm on a chart of Mediclinic and I am on the 1 month chart, meaning that each and every single bar that I currently see right now represents 1 month worth of activity between both buyers and sellers according to the share price of Mediclinic itself. So that means that when the new month begins, there is a particular line inside a bar where the activity starts at. And on a bar, the left hand vertical line represents the opening of activity for the month. So this particular line here, that particular line there represents the opening of this month's activity on MediClinic, right? This line here represents the opening of the month of March 2018 for the share price of MediClinic. Now, looking at the overall activity, the bar itself went to the spike there at the bottom where I have highlighted, which was the lowest price reached. So MediClinic for the month of March has reached prices of 92.74 was the lowest price reached, which is this particular area down here for MediClinic. So from opening, so MediClinic opened at the price of 97.13 for the month of March. Sellers pushed the price down to 92.74. When it got to 92.74, buyers started pushing the price up to this highest point here. Yes, it's a small spike, but I'm sure we can see it, which is our price there at 101.26, which is our highest price for the month, which was reached for MediClinic. Now, because the month has not yet ended, the bar itself for this month has a closing price, but it does not mean that it is the closing price for the month. It is just showing you that it is the closing price since yesterday was Friday and the markets ended up closing yesterday. But it does not mean that this is the closing price for the month. The month is still going to continue. And if MediClinic does continue going higher, that means the vertical line on the right, which is this one here, this one identifies the closing price of the share. It identifies the closing price of the share. But since the month has not yet ended, this particular closing price that we have here, which is 101.00, is not yet the closing price for MediClinic for this particular month. That means the activity is still going to continue. The closing can be higher, the closing can be lower. We are not particularly sure as to what is likely going to happen for this month. Now, this bar, as you can see, I have 4 dots on the bar highlighting the opening price. If I can just type it on the bar, this particular vertical line there, this is the opening price. We opened. There you have it. And this one at the bottom there, that is the lowest price reached for that bar on MediClinic this month, which is our spike. And our highest price reached is that little small spike there at the top. That is our highest price for this month on MediClinic. And then the closing for this month here, which it has not yet happened, will be this particular line here on the right. There we have it. So in a bar we have 4 prices. The price of MediClinic opened at 97 Rand and 13 cents for this month. It went to the lowest price of 92 Rand and 74 cents. It went to the highest price of 101 Rand and 26 cents. And the current closing for this month, which has not yet ended, is at 101 Rand flat. So by looking at my chart right now, you can see that I have identified the opening, the lowest, the highest, and the closing price on a bar. So this is how you are supposed to read the bar. So this bar currently, by looking at it, the closing price is on the side of the highest price, and the closing price is higher than the opening price. That means that the bar that I have just identified right now on Mediclinic is showing me that the share price of Mediclinic for this month is actually going up and it's not coming down. Just by looking at the current closing is higher in price than the opening. So it is showing me that the price of Mediclinic is in actual fact going up for this month, is not yet coming down. But we have not yet fully confirmed exactly where the share price of Mediclinic is going to end at, simply because the month of March has not yet ended. So that means that if this right vertical line, which is showing the closing, ends the month of March lower than the opening price, that means the overall share price movement for this month on Mediclinic will be coming down. It will be lower because the closing price would be lower than the opening price. This is how you read a bar. So if I can backtrack on the chart here, I will identify a bar where the share price actually came down. On this particular candlestick here, I have a highest price reached there. This was the month of, what's this? It's the 1st of October 2017. As you can see, the highest price, I identified it from the spike there at the top on the bar. The lowest price reached is right there. It is the second circle at the bottom. The opening is the left line right there. That was the opening of October. So the opening of October, the opening was 117 rand and 43 cents. The highest price reached was 124 rand and 81 cents, and the lowest price reached was 107 rand and 60 cents. Now the closing, on the other hand, is this right vertical line here. There you have it. And the closing price was 108 rand and 94 cents. So on this bar here of October, the closing is lower than the opening price for that month. So hence, for that month, the overall share price of Mediclinic came down and it did not go up. So this is the Western method of analyzing a chart using bars, right? This is the Western method. Now I'm going to switch my bars now into candlesticks, because bars and candlesticks are supposed to show me the very same information, except that the candlestick has what is known as a body, which shows the activity. So I'm going to change into my candlesticks here. Now I have my candlesticks. Let me delete my previous analysis of the bars, and I will leave the circles right here. Now, as you can see, I'm still on the current month's candle. Now the candlestick, again, it has four prices, just like a bar. It has an opening price, it has the lowest price, it has a highest price, and it also has a closing price, right? So Mediclinic's candle is this one that you see here, whereby I have already identified the upper spike right there. So I have a figure down here, which is this line. It's called a spike. It shows you the lowest price which was reached during the trading session of this candlestick, and the upper spike, which is this small one there at the top, shows you the highest price which was reached. But now, since the spikes are showing me the highest price and the lowest price reached, the spike, again, what it means to you as a speculator, it basically shows you rejection. It shows you rejection. That means that on this lower spike that you see there showing the lowest price reached, for this to turn into a spike, that means that sellers were pushing the price down. When it reached the lowest price, buyers started to push the price up. Hence, you are only left with a spike, which is, or you can take it as a trail which was left showing you where activity was before, but it does not mean that activity is still there. We went there at some point, but currently we are no longer there. Activity is currently somewhere else. So this lower spike there, it is showing you that sellers were busy pushing the price down, but buyers came in, they started pushing the price up. Hence, you are only left with a spike. It is a form of rejection which takes place in the market. Now, the smallest spike that we have there at the top, that means that buyers were busy pushing the price up, and when it got towards the top line there, the spike at the highest price was 101.26, 101 and 26 cents. When it got to that price there, sellers started to push the price down, and yesterday the price ended at 101 rand 0.00. So with the candlesticks, the openings and the closings inside the candlestick is not as easy to identify as the bars that we have just looked at. The bars have a line on the left hand side which is showing you the opening. It has the line on the right hand side which is showing you the closing. But with a candlestick, on the other hand, because of the body, it is difficult to identify where the highest price, where the opening price and where the closing price are actually at. Now, the opening and the closing prices, for you to be in a position to identify exactly where they are, that is when we start using a color. The moment we start giving a candlestick color, that is the reason where now we can easily identify where the openings and where the closings of our candlesticks are actually at. Now, I am going to give my candlesticks color for now. I am going to assume color. I'm going to have my candlesticks showing the share price going up to be green. I'm going to give them the color green. And the candlesticks that show price coming down, I will give them the color red, right? But they are showing the share price going up and the share price coming down on the basis of where exactly did the opening of the activity of that candle start and where the closing of that activity ended. So the body of a candlestick is the one that shows us where the activity is at. Is the activity on the buying side or is the activity on the selling side? So when I see a red candlestick, it basically shows me that the activity is on the selling side on the basis of the opening and the closing. Meaning that if I have a red candlestick like this one here for the month of January 2018, the candlestick's color is red. That means that the opening price is on the side of the highest price identified by this upper spike here. So on the edge of the body of this candlestick here, this is where the opening price is at. Now on the lower edge, on the side of the lowest price reached, that is where the closing price is at. Hence, I want color to identify exactly where the opening is at and exactly where the closing is at. So this red color here tells me that the overall share price movement came down on the basis of the fact that the closing price is lower than the opening price because now the color is red. But now when I have a green candlestick like the current one that we are having right now, this green candlestick here shows me that the opening price is lower than the current closing price, meaning that the closing price is on the side of the highest price reached on the edge of the body, on the side of the highest price, and the opening is on the edge of the body, on the side of the lowest price. Hence, my green color is identifying all of that for me. The opening is on the side of the lowest price and the closing is on the side of the highest price. The color of the candle is green, showing me that the overall activity of this particular candlestick, the share price is going up and it's not coming down. Remember, when you are looking at your candlesticks, a red candlestick does not mean that you need to sell, or a green candlestick does not mean that you need to buy. It is just identifying for you where the opening price and where the closing price are at. So I see green, it tells me that the closing price is higher in price than the opening. If I see red, it tells me that the closing price is lower in price than the opening price. Is there any question so far based on the colors and identifying exactly where the share price is going based on the candlestick? Is there any question? Are there any questions so far? What did it open at? Okay, Raymond, the current candle, this one here, already as I look at it, the candlestick is green, right? The candlestick is green. So what this candlestick is telling me currently, by just looking at the color, is telling me that the overall share price is going up. That means that the current closing price of this particular candlestick is higher than the opening price. Now, if you want to see the exact prices, what you can do is you can put your cursor on the candlestick itself, and here at the top, that is where now you will be having the opening, the highest, the lowest, the closing, and the change in percentage for this month. Now, as I put my cursor here, I can see that Mediclinic for this month, the opening price was 97.13, the highest price was 101.26, the lowest price reached was 92.74, and the closing price is 101. So just when I put the cursor on the top, I can see those opening highest, lowest, and the closing prices. But if I just remove my cursor away from the candlestick, I cannot see the actual prices, but I can identify exactly what is happening with the candlestick itself, where the opening is at and where the closing is at. When it's green, the closing price is higher than the opening price. That means the overall share price movement is going up. If it's red, the closing price is lower than the opening price. That means the overall share price is coming down. And the spikes are showing you the highest price reached and the lowest price reached, but at the very same time they are significant in a sense that they are showing you the rejection which is taking place. If it's the spike at the top showing you the highest price reached, that means for that spike to occur, sellers came in and they rejected buyers from further pushing the share price up. And if it's the spike at the bottom showing you the lowest price reached, it is basically showing you that sellers were pushing the price down and buyers came in, they started pushing the price higher. The body is where the activity is at, the overall activity without any form of rejection. If there is rejection, then the body will turn into a spike. If there is no rejection, you will only have the body. Now, is there any other question based on candlesticks? Is there any other question on the basis of candlesticks? Okay, so far everyone is fine. If you have a question, you can type it in. I will read it and I will give you an answer. Now, let's come into the different trends that we have. Now, each and every single share has a particular trend that it will follow on the basis of the circulation of capital. Now, when I'm in the trading room, I usually make an example of the pyramid scheme which was there in the market, which was known as triple M. Now, triple M at some point was moving sideways, at some point it went up, at some point it came down, which followed the three trends that we have for our shares in the market, right? So the three trends that we have in the market is a sideways trend, it is an upward trend, and it is a downward trend. Now, in a sideways trend, there are two particular areas, or in all the trends, there are two particular areas that we have, and those two areas are known as support and resistance, right? Those two particular areas are known as support and resistance. Now, the definition, according to our textbooks that we read, is that an area of support, it is an area of lower prices which is reached where there is a possibility of a share to change direction. Remember, the word possibility stating that there is a chance that it may change direction or it may not change direction. So an area of support is an area at lower prices where the share has a possibility of changing direction. That means that it may change direction, it may not change direction, right? So your trends have these different areas of support at lower prices when the share is coming down, where the share actually changed direction or it did not. So in technical analysis, we use the previous data on the chart to identify our areas of support and resistances if you want to trade long term. Now, the area of resistance, the definition of an area of resistance states that an area of resistance is an area at higher prices where the share has a possibility of a change in direction. It does not mean that it will change direction, but it has a possibility. Right? So all your trends, again, they have those particular areas of support and resistances. Now, if I'm changing this chart of MediClinic, I'm gonna go to the 1-day chart right now, where there is more data than that on the 1-month chart. I would like to zoom out. Can everyone see this chart so far? Where I want to identify the different areas of support and resistance that we find on MediClinic. Yes, so I'm going to draw lines on the different areas of resistances, right? Now, after drawing the lines on the different areas of resistances, I'm going to draw lines on the different areas of support. Now, after drawing those lines and identifying the supports and the resistances, I am now going to be telling you which trend do you see if the supports and the resistances are structured the way that they are. Now, I'm going to start here by drawing a line here at the top. As you can see, on this line here, on the first line, I'm basically identifying this particular area there. I'm identifying this particular area there. As you can see, the share price was going up. When it reached this line here, the share price started coming down, right? Now, since the share price changed direction where my line is at there, this area there is known as an area of resistance. So I will identify it as resistance 1. Right? I have resistance 1 there. I will give it a color. I will give it this color there. This is my resistance 1. Now let's go and see where my support is at. My support is here, this particular area there. This particular area here was support. Let me increase the boldness of the line there. So the share came down when it reached this particular price around 112.78. It went up a bit, right? When it went up a bit, it changed direction again. So right here on this line there, I have support. This is my support 1 that I have here. That is my support 1. This is my support 1. Now this share went up from support 1, it went to resistance. So it formed a new resistance here at the price of 117.96 rand, which would be my resistance 2. I will identify it as resistance 2. So far as you can see right now, I have resistance 1 there at the top. The share price came down. When it reached this particular area, it started to change direction. It went up. So this area, we identified it at support 1. When it got to this particular second line, 117 rand and 96, it changed direction. It started going back down again. This we identified as resistance 2. Now let's look at where our support 2 is going to be at. Now our share came to these lows here of 107 rand and 60 cents. That particular line there, I'm going to identify it as my support 2. This is my support 2. Now on this support 2 there, as you can see, now let me zoom in right now. Can everyone see my resistance 1 there at the top, support 1, resistance 2, and support 2? You can all see it. Now, as you can see these different resistances and support, I can identify the trend of the share by being a downward trend on the basis of the fact that from resistance 1, the next resistance that the share hit was lower than the previous one. So as you can see, my resistance 1 is higher than resistance 2. And by looking at my lowest areas, which are supports, my support 2 is lower than my support 1. So if you identify a share which has resistances which are lower and your supports which are lower than the previous ones, then you need to know that the share is currently moving in a downward trend, also known as a bearish trend. And when a share is moving in a bearish trend, please do not go against the trend and buy the share. The share is supposed to be a sell. You are supposed to sell the share. Do not buy the share. Now, since I have identified my areas, let's say that on this Mediclinic's downward trend, I want to trade this share coming down. I want to sell the share because my resistance 2 is lower than resistance 1 and my support 2 is lower than support 1. How can you best identify where the next turning point is going to be? Now, I already have support 2 here, and from support 2 the share went up. So if it goes up, where is the share likely to find resistance and start to come down? Now, the way my lines are structured, support 1 is going to turn into resistance when the share is going towards it, right? Support 1 is going to turn into the newly formed resistance once the share starts to go into its direction. Now, as you can see, the share changed direction at support 2. When it got to support 1, it went slightly above and then it started coming down back to support 2. So ideally, if I wanted to go short on this trade here, I would have went short or at support 1 on this trade. I would have went short. My entry would be support 1, entry, go short. And even though the share went slightly higher, eventually the share would have went into my direction to go and form the newly formed support, which is support 3 there at the bottom. So this particular change in direction that took place there, my last line there at the bottom, this is support 3. That is support 3, which was established on this particular trend there. And as you can see, from support 3 here, from support 3, resistance 1 is higher than resistance 2, support 1 is higher than support 2, support 2 is higher than support 3. That means that now support 1, if I want to trade a short, support 1 is going to be resistance. It's going to be a newly found resistance. So that means that now I have resistance on support 1 being my resistance 3. So support 1 is my newly found resistance, which is going to be resistance 3. Now, as you can see right there, how my trend is structured as a downward trend. Resistance 1 is higher, resistance 2 is lower than resistance 1. Resistance 3, which is now support 1, is lower than resistance 2, and support 3 is lower than support 2. So that means that if I want to trade this share again for another short, that means my newly found resistance, support 2, is going to be my resistance 4. And when is my resistance 4, I need to expect the share to come down yet again. Right? I need to find my share coming down yet again. That means it's another short. So as you can see, the share changed direction at support 3. It went up to support 2. When it got to support 2, it moved a bit sideways, struggling to go even higher, and then it started dropping back down again. So what we have identified on Mediclinic so far, based on these resistances and support, we have just identified what is known as a bearish trend or a downward trend. Right? So this is Mediclinic. Now, from this particular trend of downward there, I'm going to forward on the chart of Mediclinic now. We have just identified a bearish trend. I'm gonna go up. Let's see what other trend we can find from this bearish trend of Mediclinic. There we have it. Now, as you can see, from support 3 up until my chart right now, I have hidden all of those resistances and support that we have seen. From what we can currently see right now, here I have my support. Let me shift this support. I have my support 2 here. There I have my support 2 on this particular line there. I have my support 3 on this particular line there. And then there I have my resistance 3, which is also support 1, right? So I have support 1, which is this line there. Let me retype it again. I have support 1 there. So based on the downward trend that we've just seen, this is support 1. 112.78 is support 1. 107.60 is support 2. and 9108 is support 3 on the downward trend that we've just seen. Now it looks like we have another trend of Mediclinic in this case right now on the open chart, and the trend that we have right now, our share is busy moving between support 2 going towards support 3. So support 2, support 3, it never reaches support 1, but it tries to go in the direction of support 1, but it never reaches it. So our share is continuously changing direction between support 2 and support 3. This particular trend that you see there, now where your share is changing direction between two areas. Now that means that this support 2 is again resistance, so let me see if, so this support 1 is resistance 3, remember this is resistance 3, right? That means that if this is resistance 3, this support 2 is supposed to be our other resistance 4. So one is resistance 4. Resistance 4, and we have our other resistance at the bottom being resistance 5. This one here is resistance 5. Now as you can see, this can only be resistance 5 if the share was trading below, but at this stage the share never went below it, so I cancel it as being resistance. It is only support, right? It is only support. Let me redraw back my line there. I can only identify it as being support. So far the share is moving in between support 2, which has turned into resistance 4, and support 3. So support 3 is still support 3. It has not yet changed as resistance, but now currently, because my share is trading below my support 2, support 2 is no longer support 2, now it's resistance 4. So this share moving in between this resistance 4, which is support 2, and support 3, this share is currently moving in what is known as a sideways trend. It's neither going up, it's neither coming down. It's moving in between the same two areas, and that means that neither buyers or sellers have enough strength to push the price up. Neither have the strength to push the price down, as opposed to the previous trend that we established here, which is a downward trend. In a downward trend, it is sellers that are dominant, it is not buyers that are dominant. So Mediclinic, ever since 2017, where we identified this particular downward trend, up until now, it has had two trends, which is a bearish trend or a downward trend, and a sideways trend. Now me, I am one person that does not trade sideways trend. As you can see, if you buy this trend from here towards this particular resistance here, I'm going to stay a while without the share hitting my target, and then after it decides to move. So trading sideways trends is very dangerous, in a sense that your share can easily stay in the same levels of price for a very long time without hitting either target or a stop loss. But if you trade a downward trend, on the other hand, if I trade this downward trend by entering at support 1, resistance 3, and I go short, my trade easily go into profit without having to go first into losses. So it's easier to trade bullish trends, bearish trend, and sideways trends. Now on a Mediclinic, we have identified two trends, which is bearish and sideways. Let me go into a different share. I'll go into let's see, Anglo, AGL, and try and find an upward trend from that particular share there. Okay, here's the share of AGL. Now on a share of AGL, right now, I'm going to establish an upward trend. So AGL, it has this particular area here which is support there, 243.64. This is my first area of support where the share came a bit down and then changed direction to go up. This is my support 1 for AGL. This is support 1. I have resistance 1 right there at these highs. As you can see, the share went up. When it got here, it came a bit down. This is my resistance 1 for the share. That is my resistance 1. From this resistance 1, when the share came back down, it changed direction there. On this line there. On that line there, the share changed direction. On that red line there, that would be my support 2. This is going to be my support 2 on that red line there. And the share went up to these highs there, which is going to be my resistance 2. That is going to be my resistance 2 on that blue line there. So as you can see, I have support 1 on the share. I have support 2 on the share. I have resistance 1 on the share. And then I have resistance 2 on the share. So my support 2 in the movement of AGL going up is higher than support 1. My resistance 2 is higher than resistance 1. So on this share here, ideally, if I wanted to trade this share now, that means that by looking at the share from support 1 going up to resistance 1, when it came down and it established on support 2, I'm going to extend this line of support 2 now. I'm going to extend the line. I'm going to extend the line and I will show you. When I extend the line here now at support 2, based on this current movement here, I can see that this movement was actually support before. Can everyone see? This particular area here where I have extended the line was support before, because the share came down. When it reached this particular line, it went up and then it dropped back down again. So this particular area of support 2, if I extend it, it was support before. That means that when the share comes down now, I should identify this area as support. And as you can see, this support 2, it was support here, and at the very same time, it was a resistance there, as you can see. So there was, if I extend again support 1 there, support 1 was support previously, support 2 was resistance here previously, and then support 1, the share went back to support 1. From support 1, it went higher from this particular support 2, which was resistance before. When the share came back at support 2, I would have identified it from the past, because in the past it was a downward movement. I would have identified it as my key level of entry. From my key level of entry, I would have placed a trade for a buy. Now, this here, what you have, my support 2 is higher than my support 1. My resistance 2 is higher than my resistance 1. This is what you see it as an upward trend or a bullish trend. Is there anyone that is having a problem identifying my supports and my resistances on the chart. Is there any questions on the upward, the downward, and the sideways trends that we have on our charts? Does everyone understand how I actually identify these particular areas and how to identify a trend? Because in identifying the trend helps you make the right decision of either buying or selling into the share. If you can identify resistances which are higher, supports which are higher, then you have an upward trend. You only buy the share, you do not sell that share. If you can identify supports which are going lower and resistances which are going lower, you only sell the share, you do not buy that share, right? And as you can see here, the movement going up, if you can identify again the ranges of the share, if I can identify the range of my share from this support 1 to resistance 1, and the movement of the share from resistance 1 to support 2, the range moving from support 1 to resistance 1 is larger than when the share is moving from resistance 1 to support 2. So it's very dangerous to go short in an upward trend on the basis of the fact that when the range of the share going up, that range is larger than the range of the share coming down. Hence the bullish trend, the buyer's trend. When it's a bearish trend or the seller's trend, the share when it's going up, its range is smaller than the range of the share when it's coming down. So hence the seller's trend, you only sell, you do not buy on the basis of that trend. Now let's go into analyzing a share. Right, let's go into analyzing a share now. When you analyze a share, I'm going to start by choosing a share. Let's go into CFR. Okay, Raymond called CFR. I'm going to analyze CFR. I'm going to use the trend. At the very same time, I'm going to use time. I need to know exactly in which time frame I'm going to be analyzing my share, because the time frame itself shows me exactly how long is my trade valid for. Now currently my chart is plain, but I'm going to specify an indicator which is supposed to be on your chart, but most of the people do not have it. So those that indicator is called a a chart time period separator. So what you do is on the bottom where there are written dates, you right click on that chart, and where it says show time periods separators, you need to tick all of them. I have a show days separator, show weeks separator, show months separator, and show years separator. I need to tick all of them. So I'm ticking show days separator now. I go back, I right click, show week separator, show month separator. Now when I do show month separator, as you can see, I have now green lines on my chart, and these green lines at the bottom, they are written month, they have an M there, and it's M January, M February. Now we are currently on M March. I'm left with the last, which is show years there it is, and the show years separator is a brownish line that you see on your chart there. Now since I have my chart there, I have my chart of CFR and my chart separators. Now when I have these chart separators, now when I look that I have to identify, if I want to analyze my chart, I have to identify my support, I have to identify my resistance, and I have to identify whether they are higher, I have to identify whether they are lower, so that I do not go against the trend itself. So I'm going to start first with a new year. I'm going to identify my support and my resistance for the month of January 2018. I'm going to identify my support, my resistance for the month of February so that I can be in a better position to predict where the month of March is likely gonna go. Now I'm gonna draw my lines. My highest point for the month of January is this particular areas there. Now remember, my highest point is going to be identified by the spikes, right? The spike shows you the highest price reached during the trading session. Now on the month of January, from the 1-day chart of CFR, the highest price reached was around about 115 rand and 84 cents. Now that is bold, right? So this here, what I have there, this is my resistance 1 on the month of January this year, 2018. Resistance 1 on, no, resistance 1 on the month of January. So this is the month of January, the beginning of the year. This is my resistance 1. Now my support 1, so my support on the month of January was this particular candle here. It was the lowest one. This is my support 1 for the month of January. Now remember, when I'm busy doing this, I am again identifying the trend of the share itself. That is support 1. So the month of January, if I'm only focusing on this year, I have my resistance 1, I have my resistance 2. That is for CFR. Now when I look at my resistance 1 and my support 1 on the month of February, now this green line identifying M February, my share went up to resistance 1. So it began the month of February by going first to resistance 1, right, which is resistance 1 of January. That means that if the share does not go above, now do you see that this red candle that we have here, it has a long spike going towards the high of January. This was basically a rejection of sellers, showing that sellers do not want the buyers from further pushing the price above resistance 1, which was established in January. That means if I see this now, I have a movement of this nature. I have a movement of this nature where the share goes up. When the share goes up, and then the share needs to change direction if it does not break that resistance there. Let me highlight this one there. So if you have a movement of this nature where a share goes up to resistance, when it gets to resistance it fails to break and there is some form of rejection which takes place, then that rejection, where sellers are rejecting buyers from further pushing the price up higher than the resistance 1, that is your identification to sell the share and not buy the share. So this is sell 1 that we have on the share price of CFR that we should have identified on the month of February. Now if I do enter at this resistance here for a sell after seeing the rejection on this red candle there, that means my target would have been where? At support 1. So I enter at the resistance 1 for a sell. Support 1 is supposed to be my target, my TP, and my stop loss is supposed to be above resistance 1. It can be a couple of rands above resistance 1 right there. When you get a risk and reward ratio of 1:2, then that will be your trade. Now the month of February, its resistance is the same as the resistance of January, but now the support on the other hand is slightly different. Now the lowest price reached for the month of January, which would be our support, which is there, right there. This would be my support 2 now for the month of February. Support 2. There you have it. I have support 2 for the month of January. Now, currently, we are currently trading in March. Can anyone tell me, since we have support 1, support 2, resistance 1, can anyone tell me, is CFR currently moving in a downward trend or is it moving in an upward trend by looking at our resistances and our supports for this year on CFR? I have down CFR. I have down CFR. Yes. We are currently in a downward trend on the basis of the fact that January's low, which is support, is lower than February's low is lower than January's low. So support 2 is lower than support 1. That means that currently for the month of March, because we are currently trading below support 1 and currently trading above support 2, that means now that support 1 is going to be our newly found resistance for this month. So resistance 2 for March is our support 1, which was established in January. So that means that if I was to take a trade for a buy, for example, if I am a risk taker, if I want to go on a buy, from support 2, my target is going to be straight at resistance 2. So this will be the trade that I will take, this line moving from support 2 going towards a resistance 2. The reason why it is a resistance 2 is because this resistance 2 was support 1 in January. That means because the share is currently trading below, this support 1 is going to be our newly established resistance for the month of March if the share does go up to 109 levels, which is support 1. But when it gets there, you need to be out, because since right now we have just established that CFR is moving in a downward trend, that means that resistance 2 has to be lower. So those that draw trend lines would draw a trend line from resistance 1 going towards resistance 2. So I would draw a trend line from this particular area here, this high. I would do it more or less like this. So that means that my share needs to change direction there. So I need to have a downward trend. My share needs to move from support 2, go into support 1, which has just changed into resistance 2. If it does not go through, then our share continues in its downward trend. But if it does go through, on the other hand, let me remove this line. If I can extend this line, if this share does go through resistance 2 now, that means that this very same support 1, I'm expecting the share to hold this support 1 to hold the share coming down. That means that now by going up, if this support 1 holds the share here and the share continues in an upward direction from this, so a movement of this nature now, let me make the lines bold. I'll show you now what I mean. So if a movement of this nature now comes in future, that means now that our supports and resistances are going to change. That means that this particular area is going to be support 1. Is going to be support 1 now. And this next line, which right now is currently serving us as a resistance 2, because this movement went through, this particular area now will now be our support 2. Will now be our support 2, and if this becomes our support 2 going up, that means that now our CFR would have changed direction from being bearish into being bullish. That the trend will change from being a seller's trend and it will start to become a buyer's trend now. Can everyone identify how I'm basically predicting how the next movement is likely going to be? Is there any question so far? Is there any question based on the prediction of what is likely going to happen with the movement going forward? Okay, so far everyone, is it a buy now? So currently what I see, currently CFR is a buy up to resistance 2. That is what I currently see. It's a possible buy, and my reasoning for saying that it's a possible buy is on the basis of the number of rejections that we see there. Yes, we have candles that are green, but at the very same time, our spikes are facing down, meaning that every single time sellers are pushing the price down below support 2, which was established in February, buyers come in to push the price even up. So they did it 1, 2, 3 times. So at support 2, which was established in February, buyers rejected sellers from further pushing the price down 1, 2, 3 times in a row. So what I see from all of these rejections which are taking place, I see a possible buy towards resistance 2, which was support 1 in January. But remember, the only way support 2 can form is if the share goes through resistance 2 to come back down to the very same support. Now let's analyze another share. Any other share that you would like to analyze? A share that you would want me to analyze using EOH. Okay, EOH. Let's analyze EOH with the same method. I'm still on the 1-day chart of EOH. I am on the 1-day chart of EOH. I am starting my analysis this year, right? I am not looking on the previous year, 2017. I'm starting my analysis on the current year to establish where my supports and my resistances are and what is the current trend that we are having. Now I'm going to start first by drawing the highest point, which is going to be my resistance for January. There is my resistance for January. There we have resistance. So this is going to be resistance 1 for this year. Resistance 1 for this year, January. And let's see where our support 1 is. There is our support 1 for the very same month, January. Can anyone already identify what is happening here? That is support 1. Can anyone already identify what is currently happening? Yes, Mpho. Identified it very well. As you can see, resistance 1 and support 1, which were established on the month of January. February, it started its movement by going to support 1, which is January support, and then it went straight to resistance 1. From January. At this particular stage, March is still trading at resistance 1. But as you can see from the current candle or Friday's candle, we are having a rejection lower. That means sellers push the price down below resistance 1, but buyers came in to push the price even above that very same resistance. So at this particular stage, you are having a sideways trend for the share EOH. From this sideways trend, neither buyers nor sellers have strength to push the price up. It is only if we can identify a resistance which is higher than resistance 1, then that we can safely confirm that okay, our trend is starting to become bullish as opposed to being bearish. Now, remember, the reason why I'm identifying these particular areas like this, I'm on the 1-day chart, and my line that are separating my chart are separating a whole month's worth of movement. Hence, my supports and my resistances are stable like this. I'm not identifying them as these small turning points which are happening during the very same month. Now, let's look at Tiger Brands. I just had a request for Tiger Brands. Let's have a look at Tiger Brands for this year. We'll start with the support, the resistance of Tiger Brands for January. This was the highest point of January. So that is support 1 for Tiger, as resistance 1 for Tiger Brands. Resistance 1 Tiger Brands in January. This here is support 1 Tiger Brands for January. This is support 1 for Tiger Brands. Now, as you can see from here, February on Tiger Brands started first by going to support 1. When it got to support 1, the share moved back to resistance 1. So February on Tiger Brands started first by the share going to support 1, going back to the very same resistance 1, and then it started breaking. So February broke support 1, and then it ended at the very same support 1. Now this is what happened now. Look at what happened. The share established a newly found support there on February. So this is now support 2. This is support 2 on the share, as you can see, for the month of Feb. And remember, when you break your support and establish a new support, support 1 is supposed to turn into resistance 2. So this is resistance 2, as you can see there. And it looks like resistance support 2 is lower than support 1. And if support 1 changes into resistance 2, I'm supposed to have went short on resistance 2 before the breaking news. Before the Poloni breaking news, if you went short on support 1 for January, which was turned into resistance 2, then if you went short those breaking news, you could have made a huge profit. As you can see, there was a gap that took place. Currently now, as you can see, the share came down. It opened a gap below support 2. It went up to support 2, which is now changed into resistance 3. Resistance 3. It has changed into resistance 3, hence the share for the month of March is busy coming down. Now, if you can look at our supports and resistances currently for this year on the share Tiger Brands. Is Tiger Brands in a downward channel? Is it in a downward trend, or is it in a sideways trend? Which trend can you spot on Tiger Brands currently? Down, 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 bearish. Exactly. So this is what we currently have. We are having resistance 1 on January, support 1 on the very same month for this year. The month of February went up to resistance 1. It never went even higher, but instead it came down below support 1 and established support 2. When it established support 2, it went back to support 1, which is a newly formed resistance called resistance 2. When it got to resistance 2, there was bad news that came in and it changed direction. It came down even below support 2. When it came down below support 2, it went back up to support 2, which is a newly established resistance 3, and now the share came down. So currently, from what I see, the share, if I can draw another line for this month, right there on the line that I have right there, it's not confirmed as yet, but currently where the share is currently at, I can name this particular area as support 3. This is my current support 3 for Tiger Brands. So currently Tiger Brand is sitting at support 3, and if Tiger Brands is sitting at support 3 at resistance 3 there, that's where I'm expecting the share to go up again. If it doesn't go through, then the share will most definitely come down even below. Are there any questions based on how you analyze a chart? This is an analysis which is done on the 1-day chart. Is there any questions based on analysis? Is there a question? So everyone so far understands. I had the last request to analyze SGL, Sibanye Still Waters. I'm using the very same 1-day. I'm focusing on this month. I'm focusing on this year. I'm focusing on this year. So this is January's high for this year. I have January's high for this year, which is going to be my resistance 1. This is going to be our resistance 1 right here for January. And January's low was right there, which is going to be our support 1 for this year. We are beginning the year. This is going to be our support 1 for this year. Remember, the reason why I'm doing this way, starting from the beginning of this year, imagine that you did not have the history in the chart and you were only beginning the year in January 2018, and now we are in March. How would you safely trade this share here? So I have resistance 1, I have support 1 for SGL for the month of January. Now look at what happened. On the month of Feb, this was a newly established high right there, which is going to be our resistance 2. This is going to be resistance 2. This is going to be resistance 2. And then from resistance 2, the share came down below support 1. Right, so the share initially came down, so we had this support here. This is the first support which the share established right there. This is support 2 here. So I have resistance 1, I have resistance 2, I have support 2. Now support 1 is our resistance 2. Ideally support 1 is resistance 2. Remember, the share may not change direction exactly at that very same price. It may go slightly higher, but the end result is the share needs to come down. So the share on the month of Feb, the share came down below support 1, it established support 2, changed direction, went up to support 1, the areas of support 1, which is going to be resistance 2, and then it changed direction to go back. Now it went even below support 2. So these particular areas that we have here, that area there, that is our support 3. So on the same month, the share created 2 supports. We have support 3 on the same month of Feb going into March. There it is. There is the share support 3, and that means if this is support 3, support 2 is supposed to be our resistance 3. Resistance 3, there we have it. We have resistance 3 there on SGL. So support 2 has turned into resistance 3. So there we have it. For SGL for this year, we have January's resistance 1, support 1. February, support 1 is now turned into resistance 2, and February established a new support 2. Going towards the end of Feb created another support, which is support 3, and our support 2, which was established, has now changed into resistance 3. Now, as you can see, the share is currently trading above support 2, right? It's currently trading above support 2, which is supposed to be resistance 3. If the share goes towards resistance 2, which is our support 1 for January, that means that now our support 3, which was established, is going to change into support 1, and this support 2 on a downward trend is going to change into support 2, right? So that means that now our supports are beginning to become higher and higher. The share has changed into an upward trend. You need to start buying the share, because as I remember the trade idea, I think that it was a buy around this same resistance 3 for a possible change in direction. That means if this share changes direction at this resistance 3 to go up, now you have the share which is having a newly established upward trend. It's no longer in a downward trend from the beginning of January. Is there any question so far? Is there any question on the current analysis of SGL? Yes, the trend, I agree, is still downward, but what we are trying to establish is if there is a newly established low right here at resistance 3, which is going to be support 2 of the past, then we are having a higher low, then there is a possibility that the trend itself is changing from being downward to being up. Remember, what we ideally want to be on point with regards is we will always want to be on point with regards to when a trend is changing. If we can identify a changing trend, then we are safely going to be making profits going forward. But if we only see trends at the end before they change, then we have a big problem, because we are going to continue assuming that the trend is still bearish, but we have not yet identified. So far this particular trend is bearish, but if it is changing, these are the areas where it needs to change. If it does not change, again, these are the very same areas which need to continue with the direction of the share. So my name is Gopolang Hopolang. I am the presenter at the trading room. So when you come to the office and you go to the trading room, that is where you are going to find me, and that is where I will be teaching you all of this and more other tricks that you can use to analyze the market, so that you can be a better trader, a profitable trader. Because in the trading room we only work with 9 out of 10 winning trades, not 5 out of 5. So I hope that with what we have done today, you will have a profitable coming week, so that when we talk the next week Saturday, you do not have any losses, but you are only sitting on trades. So I thank you for... Oh no, the trading room is from Monday up until Friday. If you can always come here for the whole week. If you can come here for the whole week, it will be better for you. By the end of Friday, you should be knowing what you are doing and you should be a profitable trader after Friday. So, I will see you during the week if you do come to the trading room. All 5 days, yes, you can always come for all 5 days. The trading room is structured as on a Monday, what we do fundamental analysis. On a Tuesday, we do technical analysis. On a Wednesday is strictly clients analyzing, doing everything practically. You are now becoming hands-on. On a Thursday, I'm focusing only on indicators. And on a Friday, it's again a hands-on work for the clients where I only help you if you only have a question. That is how we are basically structuring the trading room. On a Monday, we are doing fundamental analysis, how to look at fundamentals. On a Tuesday, I do technical analysis, and that is just technical analysis on the basis of analyzing a plain chart. On a Wednesday, you become hands on. That means now you are starting to analyze by yourself. I will be there to assist. You are using that which you have learned to analyze a plain chart of a share and try to make a decision on whether it's going to be a buy or a sell. So what we have done today, we basically did analyzing a plain chart and following exactly where the share is going, so that when you make a decision, you know exactly in which direction is the share moving on. This is a practical view of analyzing a plain chart. So on a Wednesday, you do it hands on by yourself, but I will be there to assist. On a Thursday, I only do indicators. It's just indicators on a Thursday. On a Friday, again, now we are wrapping up. That means you are using whatever that you have learned for the week to analyze a share, create a trade idea for yourself, and then you will be done on a Friday. No, the methods of analysis are still the same as the ones that I am doing today. They are not any different. It's still the same methods of analysis. Support resistance, identifying the trend, identifying if a share is changing a trend. If it's not, then we still continue bullish, we still continue bearish. If it's sideways, we stay away from it. It's still the same analysis. But what is most important, you guys need to remember that the most important thing is to first analyze a plain chart, make a decision on the basis of a plain chart. If you can make a decision on the basis of a plain chart, like what we have just done now, then you are going to be a more profitable trader, because the moment I put in an indicator is going to be confirming exactly what your chart was saying. It's not the other way around, that the indicator is telling you to buy or to sell. It is the chart itself that is supposed to tell you to buy or to sell, and then the indicator comes in and it confirms what you already see. My numbers, you can call me at the office, 011-315-1000. Yes, Saturdays I'm the one that is doing the webinar. So on Saturdays, the webinars on technical analysis are usually done by me. So next Saturday it will be me again. And next week Saturday, now based on what we have done today, I'm going to be doing an indicator. But when now I'm doing analysis, I am going to be doing what we've done today, identifying support, the resistance, and the trend. After that, I'm going to be confirming whatever analysis that we have done by looking at how the indicator is actually working hand in hand with the chart that we have just analyzed. So I thank you very much for attending today's webinar. I will meet you guys again next week, Saturday, 10 o'clock. So 10 a.m. I will be switching on to the live webinar, and we will take it from there with regards to continuing into being profitable. So for this week, coming week, I hope that you become massively profitable with just analyzing a plain chart. So I thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.